Sam M wrote in comments on the priority from the right video that he'd seen the previous vlog of the incident with the police in town. He said the main road you came off was a priority à droite. The police were coming down a one-way road with a give way marking across the road, dotted line. Although the markings are a bit washed out, they're still present. Hence, the police car had his indicator on to turn left, not an action one would do for a priority à droite. I feel the police may have felt the need to make oneself feel important after an error. They most likely saw your camera, which provides evidence of the error. My friend was stopped once, accused of using a phone at the wheel on the roundabout until she pointed out that it was a right-hand drive car, French registered car, and in fact it was a husband driving and she was just the passenger using the phone. So this comment made me go to Street View on Google. So this is where we turned in off the main road in Chauvigny. Now there should be a sign here. If we've got a priority à droite coming up, there should be a warning sign, something like this over here. Attention, vous n'avez pas la priorité. There wasn't a sign. There isn't one. I can see when I've gone on here. So this is a car park, and someone else has said to me, Isabeau, that in parking areas or car parks, the priority is from the right. And I've come a cropper in Leclerc car park because of that. But there's no sign. There's no sign suggesting we haven't got priority either side of the road. And then if you look here, there's the giveaway lines across, and this is where he came out from. And if we swing round and look up there, this is a through road. It comes through from the main road at the other end. There's parking either side. So does that mean it's actually car parking rather than it's a road? I'm not sure. But this is the bit that he said, if there are no markings, then the priority is from the right. So I don't know what his game was, but he was wrong. And thank you, Sam, for pointing that out and making me go and look at. Okay, hold on. Let's pause. This phone is on a long bendy thing that Phil gave me years ago. Not years ago, probably about a year ago, and I didn't really use it much because it's quite hard. It's got a sprung grip, and I find it really hard to get the phone in, and sometimes the phone slips out and whatever. So, and then it's on a long bendy thing attached to my desk, and then every time I use it, I have to reattach it and then take it off. But it's quite handy for like now, and I'm sitting indoors and I don't want to go and stand outside. It's dark out there now. It's 6 o'clock. Oh, 6 o'clock again. That's when I did last night's vlog, or a vlog. What vlog was that? Oh, I don't remember. Joe gave me I bought back from my sister in July. I bought back 3 of Mum's diaries that she'd kept from 41, 42, 43. So Mum was 13, 14, 15. And Joe came over after we'd come back, and Joe is studying genealogy. So she picked the diaries up and was really interested in them. So she took them home. And I hadn't actually, I'd sort of glanced through them when I was at Viv's, but I hadn't really looked at them. And so I took them back from Joe yesterday. And I'm trying to read them, but oh God, it's so difficult. I'm using a magnifying glass. Of course, I can't really hold stuff very well because of my hands. Using a magnifying glass. And I got as far as May 1941, and I've had to have a break. And then I'll try a bit more. But some of it she's written in pencil, and that's sort of faded out, and so that's even more difficult to look at. And I'm hoping that the next, I haven't looked yet, but I'm hoping that the next 2 diaries will be easier because this is really tough. So she lived in Luton, and there were bombing raids in Luton. So she talks about the bombing raids, and that they've got a shelter at the school, and that they got under the table one night. And so she lived through that part of the war. And And when I was a child, Luton seems so far away, but it's probably quite close to London, closer than I realised, because she talks about going to going down to London and going to Windsor, and they saw the Eton College boys. And let's just put that in here just to get an idea of how far it is. She would have gone on the train, I think. So it's 57 minutes nowadays by car. I don't think it would have been, there wasn't, that's all the way down the M25. What's it on the train? That's an hour. It would have been 2 hours, I'm sure, on the train. It's an hour and 40. But it's a long way on the train. Although she would have gone to London on the train. Anyway, so she talks about doing stuff like that, and she talks about being out on her bike, and she did quite a lot of work in the home. Her mum was a widow. Her dad died when my mum was 12. Collapsed in the outside toilet against the door. And she always told a story that she, being quite slight, had to climb through the window to pull him away from the door so that they could open the door and get him out. And interestingly, my Uncle Alan, who's also dead, said that it was him that went in and got her out. So I don't know who was telling the truth, but they all have their own truth around that. So yeah, she lost her dad at 12. So her mum was a widow, and they were living in the war, and looked like mum had jobs to do at home, and my nan was I think my nan worked, and she was also a milliner. So you see mum talking about doing smocking for nan, or dealing with mum's brims. And there was something else that she talked about. So she, did some of the millinery work for my nan, for her mum. And the school hours looked really short. So I think that she was only at school in the morning for a couple of hours and in the afternoon for a couple of hours. And it's possibly because it was wartime. There was so much more else that they needed to be doing. But she looked like she was doing quite well at school. She went to guides. She'd go out on her bike. She got a job. I don't know where she got the job. I'm not sure where it was now. I know the name of it. I'm just going to pause you. I'll look it up and see if it's still there. No, nothing comes up when I Google it. I mean, I might have read it wrong, or whatever it was doesn't exist any longer. I don't know. Where she lived in Luton is now really, really quite a bad area. In fact, I was watching last year, I think it was 24 Hours in Custody, I think it was, and there'd been a massive street fight in the road that mum lived in, between two warring Asian families, I think. And I remember Nan complaining about, I won't use the words that she used, because the words that she used weren't appropriate then, and they're certainly not appropriate now, but she was surrounded by these people, and it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I haven't had any problems with anybody from different countries and cultures, and I'm not racist, but I think for her, she was an old lady, surrounded by people that she didn't recognise, that had a different culture to her, and lived very different lives to her. So she didn't have a good view of them. Yeah, so it's interesting, and it's going to take me a while to read them, because she's written in every day, and I mean, some of it's the same, in the morning, went to school, and I can see that she's rebelling a bit and getting into trouble, which she did all her life, and taught us to be rebellious. We learnt to be rebellious, and I learn much later in my life that isn't that's not really good for me, and that it's a covert way of being angry, and I learnt to have more appropriate ways of dealing with anger, but that was with training and therapy. But yeah, so it's quite interesting to read, and also quite what's the word? I can't think what the word is. Well, that's a surprise, isn't it? I can't think of the word. But yeah, I'm gonna sit down and do a bit more now. So yeah, it was really good to see that actually we weren't in the wrong. Um, and I don't understand why he decided we were. Apart from to save face because he was. Surely as a municipal policeman, he knows that he drove over a giveaway sign, a giveaway markings. It's fascinating that he would do that and then have the bare face to come and talk to us about it, and because we're us, we didn't really, well, because it's France, don't really argue with the police anyway. Um, we didn't argue. We just thought, okay, we got it wrong. But it's off, isn't it? It's really off. Anyway, we need to let that go. I'm gonna let that go. And I see Becca. Becca has decided it's all my fault again. Everything's my fault, Becca. Becca Merrin. Yeah. Or will she tell me what I've done to her? Oh. Okay. That's interesting. Another Becca Merrin comment. She says, la 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 la, all roads lead to Tattle. Kathy is Madam Flog on Tattle and a near VIP on there. Well, I was banned 2 months ago from there. I'm not on there at all. Don't know what she's looking at. Oh, anyway, whatever. Don't want to talk about her, although she wants to tell me that it's all my fault. So if there's anything going wrong for you today, it's all my fault, and I apologise. Okay? And I'll see you another time.